Do you know Army?
Do you know Army?
Hi, everyone. We sure do. And I hope you do at this point. My name is Sarah.
I'm Zoe.
I'm Mimi or Makko.
I'm Bwana.
And we are here today to talk to you about not the funnest topic we've come on here for. We just got the news this past week that the Map of the Soul tour was officially canceled after being postponed for pretty much 2 years. Yeah,
almost
because
2 years,
because of the pandemic. And we were holding on to our tickets for dear life. You guys heard us talking about it at the end of the last podcast. But we have just been force refunded. I just had my money slapped across my face.
Force refunded.
Force refunded.
Yeah,
that's a term. That's a term.
She said, I have my money slapped across my face.
They shoved it right back, and I had to take it back. I have no choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, it's interesting you said they had to cancel, because of the pandemic, so forth and so on. I honestly, my first thought about the cancellation was not because of the pandemic. Because my first thought was the pandemic has been going on for nearly 2 damn years. So why now? And so that's what I had to ask myself. I came up with my own conclusions, but then I started not talking with other armies, but listening to other armies, and then I came up with some alternate theories also.
Well,
but
they did the Map of the Soul tour. They did it. They did it virtually, and they can't. They did it. That's why they canceled it.
You're talking about the one?
The one, but that was pretty much what they were going to do for us, right?
Yeah.
So they did it.
So someone suggested, I don't know if it was one of us or a stranger, but the whole thing, we saw what they were going to do on that online concert.
Yeah.
It was massive.
It's huge.
It was massive.
Mama, I
It
think
was
you mentioned it.
amazing.
So they had so many
vendors,
so much training. They were going to train for a whole month before they performed for us. A whole lot of money went into this and contracts.
Yeah.
And after holding on to it for 2 years, maybe 5% of why they canceled came from the fact that they couldn't hold these contracts anymore.
Yeah, especially here in the States. I don't know about other countries, but I know some other armies were saying that there were truckloads and truckloads and truckloads of supplies that were going to be provided somewhere, like maybe in Pennsylvania or something. I can't remember what. But just to build out in this field, to do a makeshift kind of studio for the guys, because they were going to be here for 30 days prior to the tour, just preparing. You saw how big the one concert was.
Yes, it was going to be massive.
Yeah, so it was going to be massive.
And they would have
This
to
tour was
build and
gonna be
rebuild it in
massive.
every city.
Huge.
Yeah, this tour was going to be massive.
Every city
And
they
we
They
had
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 to
gold.
remake it, yeah.
Gold and silver tickets.
Yeah. So that could be one thing, that these contracts were running out. Their hands were forced because of certain contracts, so forth and so on. That could be one thing.
But at the same time, every army can still say, you could have done this, you could have done that, you could have done this.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they did the concert already online that we paid for, hold on to our tickets and let us use it for the next concert.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing.
It's hard fighting for tickets.
We had concert tickets, but then you gave us the concert virtually, and we talked about that. And you made us pay for the virtual.
You did make us pay for the
So,
virtual.
so now, and I'm paying for the virtual again.
Yes.
Because now it's
about
out.
the DVDs.
It's out on DVD and Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And
They
So
heard
it's
us
paid over
something.
3 times fold.
over 3 times fold. Of course, you're giving me back the bulk of it, but forcing it back to me. Still, and my first theory, before I heard or considered possible contracts and legal things that they had to face, my first thought was kind of what we hit on at the last podcast, was them monetizing out the ass everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you are taking this back now, and then telling us that so that you can now strategically prepare, and I'm paraphrasing,
That's pretty
something
much what
better.
they said.
Strategically prepare something. You've had the book of 2 years to strategically prepare, and we've been waiting patiently, holding on to what we deemed as afterglow of what we were going to have. So, what's the real reason? You're doing this for your benefit, not ours, because you're taking it back, and then are you going to shoot the prices up once we actually have to do it again?
Something that feeds into that is the manner in which they cancel it. the way they
Yeah.
canceled it was very curt. It was very rude and inconsiderate of how long we've been waiting.
Yeah.
Inconsiderate of the money that we put into it. It was just careless. Like, they simply said, you guys, it's canceled. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I feel like someone literally just snail mailed me an envelope telling me my family member died.
Yeah.
Like, that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, they
Excuse
had
me?
an assistant in the office saying, hey, you need to send worldwide email. Just tell them that it's canceled. What am I supposed to say? I don't know. Just tell them it's canceled. Okay, Army, it's canceled. We'll see what we can do. I don't know. The big heads haven't told me yet. That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah,
So
it was frustrating. It was frustrating. Like, you got to be diehard to hold on to some tickets for 2 years.
Yeah,
You
because some
have
people
to.
jumped off quickly. And
Yeah,
some
a
people held
lot
on
of
a
people
bit,
jumped off
and
quickly.
then eventually jumped off for various reasons. And then
I mean, I'm lamenting a lot because they just did not even care about the kind of ticket you had. Because, I mean, what are the odds already that we were even able to get one sound check, let alone two?
Yeah.
What were the odds? And none of us.
And then all
including-
of us got it.
Yes.
All of us got sound
We
check.
all got it together.
And more people in our group even got sound check. I
Yes.
mean, what are the odds?
What are the odds? And we know, especially now that they're only going to get more popular. There's only going to be more
They've gotten-
army fighting. Like, for tickets, the stadiums can't be built bigger.
And because of the craziness that Army is faced with now, like, we are so distraught and eager and hungry, scalpers are gonna pounce
Yeah,
on this.
scalpers
Like, it's
are
gonna
going
be
to-
field day
There's
for
nothing
them.
being
Girl.
done on
Because they know we
Girl.
want this.
Girl, see, when you first said that, I was thinking you were going to go toward Army. Like, now they're even going to fight harder to get tickets. But I got a personal
It's the scalpers.
hatred,
They're awful.
an affinity, a disdain
They're the evil in the world. Yes.
Yes.
They're
for
literally the evil in
scalpers.
the world.
Because you are literally the scum of the earth. Like, you are literally out in the open about
Actual
how you
bottom
take
feeders.
advantage of people. It's insane.
And people are so nice, they call them the resale tickets. They're the fucking scalping tickets, you know.
No, yeah,
They've
there's not- there's
Any
virtual.
advantage
Virtual.
would be a field day for them because they know even more new Army, even more Army are going to be even hungrier to get
Yeah.
this new concert. Like, oh my gosh, they're actually going to perform live. We're going to be faced
Yeah.
finally after 15,000
The
years.
only thing I can hope is that they're as ignorant as we were when we first started.
Right?
They're going to think, oh, we can get on there later. Oh, let's let the first wave go through. Or this is not going to be as hard as, like, when we first started. And we had a family member that was like, look, I've gone to so many concerts. Da, 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 da. But then again, that's a
They
story
don't
for another
understand.
It sold
podcast.
out in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I hope they're just as ignorant as we were when we first started, so that'll leave room for us
But they
and
didn't
not
even
get
give
membership.
us not even a voucher
Yeah.
saying what kind of ticket you
yeah,
had.
Would've
you
been.
can get in line first ticket thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if you are an official member
And a
and you've
ticket
held
holder.
on your and a ticket holder and you've held on to your ticket for this long, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
We're gonna put you all first in line.
yeah, or not even. Well,
Do you know how happy I would have been?
that's nice, but I would have liked a voucher that said this woman had Soundcheck tickets. She's guaranteed Soundcheck tickets when she
Yes,
goes in the next.
I'm
That
saying
would've
that
been
they
even
should have
better.
given us even the first in line
Even
thing.
exchange.
But I was also thinking, this is the ticket you got, and this is the ticket you'll get next
Yeah.
time. That I feel like that would have felt like actual back in the day big hit.
Exactly.
Caring about
Exactly.
Army,
Exactly.
knowing what we
Would
went
be
through for
different.
this.
It would be different if when we gave our money to Ticketmaster, and there was no way in the world we would have ever been able to get it back unless Big Hit said the concert is canceled. Like, if we had no other options, but they have our money, what are we gonna do? It makes sense that they would force refund us. But the fact that we of our own volition said keep our money. You had no right to. I have never in my life heard of a forced refund. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
I
that
mean,
is
okay, so
insane.
least we forget immediately K Army was forced refunded.
That's
They
true.
were.
And
when
that
the
is
pandemic started.
insane.
Yeah,
They were.
we talked about it then. Like, how are they? But you know, K Army, they take everything like a G. They do.
They take it
They
in
do because they
stride.
took and they was like, okay, thank you, but what do we? Oh, let's
Give
donate
it
To be
to
now.
fair,
Let's give it
I
to
would also
charity.
be Mother Teresa if Jungkook lived down the street from me.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah,
True.
yeah.
I
I would also
take a
be Mother
meteor.
Teresa if I've already seen them 32 times.
Yes.
Like,
True.
so.
And
But I
fan
don't know.
meet.
I don't know.
Yes, and
Um,
if I've been to a
so-
fan meet, yep, I would have.
And
be
you
gracious
know
to
they
all.
have. So it's a whole different whole different situation.
Yeah, but I mean, I just don't want to negate the fact that
Yes, that did happen.
K-Army got refunded immediately,
But
and
the
they
fact
did
that
a
they
beautiful,
had to
not just
force refund.
them. Yeah, they got force refunded. And I
Yeah,
keep
but they
saying
didn't get
K-Army
force refunded after 2 damn years.
Yeah, that's a slap in the face. That's a slap in the face
2
because you
years.
teased us with it. You let us hold on to it. And like I said, I don't know if it was because they just absolutely had to and their hand was forced because of legal reasons, so forth and so on. But what I do know is Hive is worth, everybody say it with me now, billions. Billions. So,
And we're 97% of their profit?
Yes,
The army that put you
97%.
there deserved, I don't care if you had to spend $1 billion to make it right. Make it right. Make it right.
This is what
You literally threw us back in the pit and said, sorry, you're going to have to fight your way out again.
this is what original Big Hit would have done. Yeah,
Exactly.
That's what they would have done.
And I said this in group. I said, it's like PD Neem took off and did not leave the instructions of care and feeding for Army.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't school them as to what to do and how you made Army, how you got us conditioned
we
to
are
how
the
we
way we
conditioned. Because OG Army is the one that actually keeps everything afloat. Now, I don't mean financially, because we do financially.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's a lot of the new Army that they just spend all willy-nilly. They do. And money is just like, I got paid. Here you go. Take mine. But OG Army is the one that actually is going to keep you bulletproof. We are, because you conditioned us that way and how to be strategic about it. And you didn't leave the care and feeding of us. You just didn't. You just bounced.
This is so infuriating and painful that the only way I can process it is by shutting out my feelings.
yes,
Exactly.
I've
Like,
been
it's
known.
too much for me to hold on to.
traumatic.
I was there pre this.
Yeah, it's that kind
I
of
was there
traumatic,
pre this.
traumatic feeling. And for those individuals that cannot just relate, because I know I went on, I hate going on to Twitter and so forth and so on, a lot of platforms, but I had to go on the next morning to see if I can get some kind of consolation in my soul, because I couldn't move forward. Still barely can. But the emotions, the feelings, the reactions were split across the board. Some were saying, I understand this had to be done. I understand eventually it had to be done. That doesn't take away my hurt feelings. It doesn't take away my pain. It doesn't take away that I have held on to this and saw this as the light at the end of the tunnel, so forth and so on. And then you had some that said, oh, I know the guys are so disappointed, and we're just going to hang in there, and don't worry, guys, we're with you until we can wait till the spring. We can wait till the spring and things. There's quite a few of them that said we can wait till the spring. I don't know where they got spring from. Like, if they're holding out, hoping that the turn of the year, like we were hoping the turn of this year was going to, bring about a huge change. I don't know where they got that from. But the emotions and reactions were split across the board. And you could tell the OG Army that was like, and you could tell the baby armies that was like, they're going to support no matter what. And let me say this. Supporting the guys has nothing to do with if you get angry and can't support the agency.
I think that's what Junior Army doesn't understand, because since we've been here longer and we grew with the guys and we grew with the company, like you guys, if you have noticed in the past, before they rebranded, before they changed, we were big advocates of the company. We watched every announcement they made on the business side, the conferences every single year. We talked about, all the innovative things that they're doing. We were really proud of our company, really proud of the agency, and because they treated us right, and they treated the boys right back then. But it's hard because, new Army that's coming in, they don't know what it was like before.
Or
they don't have anything
separate.
to compare it to.
Yeah.
They just think that this is the baseline, this is what it's like, period. They don't understand what it was like before.
Yeah, and they may be coming from fandoms that didn't cater to the way we got catered 2 years ago.
Exactly. They just expect that's the way it is. But exactly like you said, Bwana, people need to understand the difference that supporting the boys is different from supporting the agency. They're mixing up their emotions with their money. I'm sorry, but as much as I love the boys and I love BT21, just buying every single thing that pops up on Weaver's shop isn't necessarily supporting the boys. Like, I know that you're thinking that you are giving money to the agency which pays the boys, and to some extent that's true, but it's not true to the extent that you think it is.
In a way, it's more so you're repping the boys.
Yes.
Yeah, because of the product that you're purchasing.
Well, they do a breakdown of what all they do and how that money translates over to the boys, and you can research that yourself as far as concerts and sales from their albums and all the different aspects of the industry. it shows how much the agency gets and how much they get. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Just because you bought little Chimmy on the keychain.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down.
And like Zoe was saying just now, the other part of it, or some of that has to do with it come from, or look at it as you're repping the guys. You're repping BT21.
Which is always great.
I honestly do it. What I buy, I'm very meticulous about what I buy. And I think we all are. We are picky and choosy about what we buy. We want this item. We want that item. And we'll wait forever for it until we can get our hands on it and get it. Because there are certain things that I just want. I want to rep myself and my pride of Army and BTS or BT21 in this way. Not just because I'm throwing money at them or the agency.
So, one of the things that you just mentioned, I want to rep my pride. Until this year, I have never been closed-mouthed on how awesome BTS is until this year. Like,
That's so true.
I have gone into a new company, right, for work. And at the beginning of my job, I was like, so I will be taking off for concerts because BTS is this, and they do more than just sing and dance. They are
you
these kind of people.
that in an interview?
Like, it's all of that. Like, it's multiple things. But since that day, I haven't said anything.
Which day? Which day are you referring to?
I don't know. Whenever I first started with this company.
Oh, okay.
I don't know a specific date.
But
since whenever this, just recently, I haven't been able to say out loud, have you tried listening to BTS, or have you seen this, or have you heard about what they've done now? They're also going to do UN again, you know? Like, I haven't, that's a first.
Yeah.
That is a first.
Bwana posted the Billboard article in our group chat last night, and so I think that it's a very, very long article, so if you don't read it all the way, I understand, but they do pull a lot of interesting statistics that honestly really support what we've been saying so far. I think that was kind of interesting because we've been making, honestly, a lot of speculation. We've acknowledged every time that at the end of the day, this is just speculation because we don't have anything else to go on. This is all we can really do. But interestingly enough, a lot of our speculation seems at least somewhat supported by some of these statistics. For example, we have been saying Army is what built Hive.
Yeah.
And it literally said, I honestly thought the percentage was less, but in the article, it said that BTS makes up 97% of their profit. And I thought that number was going to be less because TXT is doing well. But the fact that this just shows that BTS and Army is still what feeds that company. And
it's outrageous.
Military aside, the military is one thing, but I think that their mistreatment of BTS and Army is just going to make everything else that isn't in our control, like the military and all that, way worse. You know, if they had handled everything from the past 2 years differently, I don't think that would have been an obstacle, honestly.
The weaker they make us, the weaker we get, the stronger our opposition gets.
Yes.
Like Billboard, Grammys, the military,
the lies,
the
rumors,
critics,
the critics,
the
haters.
the false advertisement, the false media reports. All of that is getting stronger while we're starting to have turmoil inside.
So not only are we having turmoil inside, we're getting blind. And when I say we, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, when I refer to we, I mean us. And if I'm speaking out of pocket, you guys stop me. But when we refer to us getting weaker or stronger, it's Army getting weaker or stronger, and we're getting blind. We're getting blinded and not seeing what's going on. And we talked about that last podcast. Are we the only ones that seeing what's coming or what's potentially coming? I almost lost my thought because I started, when you brought up the article, I read it thoroughly, and like you said, it's a long article. But one of the things so I've mentioned in one of our podcasts, and I don't know which one, Jen's quote, and I love this quote, when he told us one time in a V Live or something that he walked out a door into the hall and he heard members of the agency, a big hit, saying, you know, what will Army like? Wait a minute, let's do it this way. I think they'll like this better. And it moved him so. And he relayed that to us, and he said, I love our agency. And he relayed that instance to us. And that gen has turned into the gen that gives Billboard interviewers quotes like, when we thought about disbanding, we then said, okay, we've come this far. Let's see how much further we can go. And the agency, screw everything else, including the agency, and let's just depend on ourselves and depend on our family, basically, is what he said. So that went from one gen just a few years ago, probably two or 3 years ago, immediately to that gen that actually said that. And if that's not a glaring warning as to where we are going, so they said that 2 years ago when they signed this?
Yes.
When they were talking 2 years ago. So when he said that and he included the agency, it made me think, you know how we're always sitting around going, we don't know where the boys' heads are. We don't know what they're thinking. It reminded me of a boss who said she quit suddenly. And we were like, what the heck? And before she left, she said, because I know where the administration is going to take this place. She knew. And sure enough, a year later, this was taken away, that was taken away, so forth and so on. And she bailed out. It reminded me of that. It reminded me of, they know behind the walls what's about to happen. They know. 2 years ago, 3 years ago maybe, even approaching the end of one contract into the next contract of what potentially was about to happen. Petey Neem, he didn't just stop and drop because he just suddenly realized. He realized this probably a year ago when he started making moves, or when he started letting people make moves for him or with him, or influence his moves and buys and contracts and so forth. He knew this a year ago.
Yeah.
So now we're trying to play catch up and trying to open our eyes to things, but the mass majority of armies are becoming blind, and that makes us weak, is my point I was trying to get across when you were talking about makes us weaker. What makes us weaker?
I definitely think in the U.S. that's 100% the case. I don't know if that's particularly the case in Japan or in Korea. Because exactly. I think they have an insight we don't have. And I think they have an insight. They meaning especially K-Army. And I'm only distinguishing the difference between us so that you know who I'm talking about. Because I remember back in the day, the boys used to say K-Army, J-Army, U.S. Now they just say Army. So I want to keep up with that thing. But just for context, you know who I'm talking about. But for K-Army, they definitely have insight onto what's going on. And K-Army is very vocal about what they like and what they don't like. What I would like is for K-Army to kind of fill us in so we can join the revolution. Like, thank you for allowing us to be a part of this fandom and having your arms wide open. But I think that was several years ago, and we're older now. Like, you know how you treat a little baby like a little baby, and then you treat a toddler like a toddler, or a teenager like a teenager. Like, I felt like we are just as good as you now.
And we've proven that.
And we've 100% proven that. That's why your boys are in the stratosphere. So tell us what's going on. Let us do other things besides just vote. Let us do other things besides, buy the albums at this time, or vote at this time, or do this at that time. Like, let us be a part of that revolution. You don't have to fight that battle by yourself. We're more than happy to join in and fight that battle with you. But we have no idea what you know.
Yeah. I don't know how much they would actually know, because the things that they have been very vocal in things in the past, but they've been, like I said one time before, they've been very vocal in things in the past when it came to protecting the guys. This is about protecting Army. For me, it's about protecting Army now as well, and helping us to continue to have a suit of armor. And they've been very vocal in the past. They have, and wasn't afraid to speak up when it came down to
that's not
protecting the guys.
They have.
And I don't know if recently, and you may know, if they've been vocal about what's going on with the agency.
I haven't. I've heard crickets. I haven't
Yeah,
heard
so
anything.
I think it's hard because we can't really know what Army other parts of the world is saying, partially because of the language barrier. Because something I do wonder, and I didn't think about it until you brought that up, Mimi, but all we really have access to are American articles. I have no idea what, quote, the narrative is over in Korea about HYBE and BTS.
Well, this is what we have learned, that because their country is so involved with them now, depends on them now, and loves them so much now, and sees them as iconic figures representing their country, they do. The local news media, the national news media, they report on everything. So I would like to think we would actually hear something from their news media, because they're reporting on everything when it comes to the guys.
Well, I'm talking about, people's, like, not just reporting, but just, like, opinionated articles. Like, I'm curious about what individual journalists are talking about, like, what their opinions are of the company, where they're going, not just, like, facts reporting. I'm curious about what, again, the narrative is over there.
And I honestly don't think they would have a lot to, and I could be very wrong, complain about or have a huge opinion about, like we are sitting here and having, because they get catered to. They do get catered to. They're getting that, remember that entertainment thing that I talked about a few,
the summer thing, yeah.
So that huge thing, they're getting this, they're getting that. They get catered to a lot, where we feel like we're being pushed further and further. So let's talk about
when you say they, you mean?
I can say K-Army, but that country as a whole gets catered to a lot as far as HYBE or BTS is concerned, in my perspective, because, like I said, the entertainment thing, as I read further about that, they literally had that in the works some years back, but now are bringing it to fruition because of BTS. The channel that they have, we've talked about that. We don't know if it's a channel or an app that they have. They get catered to in a lot of ways that is further and further separating us as Army and pushing us back to the dark ages that we've said before.
That we already, yeah.
They're not, to me, they're not going to see the glaring things that are happening, because they're almost in a bubble of still being able to be catered to.
Yeah.
So the amount of disconnect that we're experiencing, they have yet to experience this level
or see it and notice
of disconnect. Yeah.
And notice it,
as
a family whole.
As severely as of yet.
Yeah, and they're not on this side to be able to see how the family is being pushed back little by little. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
they're
we're
not
definitely
on this
being
side to see
pushed
it.
back.
So they're in there and they're
they're
not seeing it. So that K-Army in times past, just like we are OG Army, and there's Baby Army coming up here, especially in the States. Mm-hmm. How many of the K-Army is still OG Army there, or still have some kind of control or some kind of say or some kind of oomph about them? And we don't know if it's a lot of Baby Army that's now.
Let us repeat. We may be very well off base with this. We maybe
we're speculating, because that's all we can do.
But because we don't have any insight. So, Army, give us some insight, please.
We don't have any insight.
Correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah, and the only reason, I'm going to reiterate what Mimi said, the only reason we're even differentiating between K-Army or J-Army or I-Army, because we stopped doing that. And the only reason we're doing it now is for the purposes of this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll know exactly who we're talking about. But I actually heard a podcast the other day, and these individuals that I really like, and I'm not going to quote who they are, and I'm not really going to try and quote from them, because I would like to give them props, and I can't remember them exactly who they are. But they actually referred to themselves and us as I-Army, and I thought, these individuals are hardcore Army. Like, they followed the last tour, they followed them from place to place to place, and they referred to themselves and us as I-Army. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, where'd they get that mindset from? This Army for the past 2 years, we are Army. We are worldwide Army. We're not I-Army or J-Army. And then I thought, well, maybe they're doing that to distinguish for the podcast purposes. But no, I heard them do it more than once. They literally refer to themselves as I-Army. And we stopped doing that a long time ago.
So, I don't know how many Army in America go as deep as we go. I'm just going to call it spade a spade.
You're right about that.
I mean, because it's easy to be part of Army and just be in the glitz and glow of it. Mm-hmm. Where we in the grimy part. We in the part don't nobody really talk about. We in the trenches. Yeah. And I don't know how many Army go there. To go down that road. Yeah. Not very many. So when you dig as deep as we dig, and you've been a part of this as long as we've been a part of it, we have a different mindset.
We do. Yeah.
And we pay attention to change. But it just depends on where they're learning their information from.
And then also we talked about, we did not a podcast, but we did a chat. We did a YouTube chat about different stages of Army, different kinds of Army. Yeah. And that's fine. Whatever kind of Army you are, that is absolutely fine. We're just referring to the kind of armies that we are. Like Mimi said, we are hardcore, dig deeper. They're hardcore Army that, I don't want to say stay surface, but they're a hardcore army that they're going to throw their money at a lot of things hardcore. They're going to have everything of the guys in BT21 hardcore. They're going to fight for them. They're going to diss for them. We are hardcore, as like you said, we're in the trenches. We're in the grimy part that nobody really feels comfortable about talking about or challenging.
And we see the cracks in the armor.
Mm-hmm.
We, man, it feels so good to say we are bulletproof, and you feel it. Like,
you feel bulletproof.
When I used to say that back in the day, I felt it. Yeah. I knew it. But there are truly some cracks in the armor
and some vulnerabilities that it's stifling because it's Worldwide Army doesn't see it.
They don't see it.
I mean, it's hard to share because and I do not regret how big Army has come. I'll say that first before I say the next thing. But just saying from a completely like neutral observing stance, like the bigger Army gets, the harder it is for us to reinforce that original culture we had as Army if the agency isn't also supporting it. Mm-hmm. You know, there is a time in the day when Hive was still just big hit entertainment where that's why we felt like a family, because we had our original culture going and it wasn't just us and the boys. The agency was part of it. PD was part of it. You know, that's why it was so symbolic for Army itself, for him leaving, because he was part of this original family. And this current agency, whatever model that is there now, is not supporting that original message. How are we supposed to uphold like the original values we had across so many people now if our main voice, which is the agency, isn't also supporting that?
As you say that, I'm thinking back to that article, and this was the first time I read that the new president, I don't want to miscall his name, but y'all know who he is. Whatever. I wish I pulled it up. Actually had a lot to say. This is the first time I've heard from him. So, he said a couple of things that, angered me, and he said a couple of things that gave me a little bit of pride. So when they talked about Army, he was saying some things in support. He was saying some things. The one thing that he said that actually aggravated me was, and whoever read the entirety of the article, correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed as if he was saying, we may not have intended things for BTS to go a certain way, as far as the 3 songs that have been put out in English, so forth and so on. However, the guys put the agency and the needs and what was best for the agency above anything else. And that is a beautiful thing. And I'm way paraphrasing, but he said something to that effect. Do y'all recall that?
He said that it was admirable that they could have within house, they could have a discussion and a conclusion that benefited a little bit of each side of the discussion, meaning Big Hit, BTS, and Army. They didn't want Dynamite and Butter and Permission to Dance initially, but the reason those 3 things were presented was as a result of that discussion, that hard discussion with different points of views and one opposition after another, and they came to a conclusion.
And then something the guys like put the agency above the needs of the total needs of the agency, or something to that effect, above anything else. That angered me. That bothered me to my core.
It kind of pretty much said that they didn't want it to happen, but they were kind of forced to make it happen.
They were seizing an opportunity.
That actually confirmed everything that we've been thinking. Yes. And thinking where the guy, we're kind of getting an open door, kind of cracking open to what Mimi is always adamant about. We need to know what the guys are thinking. We need to know what the guys are thinking. This article and the previous one gives us an insight, because the guys are becoming more candid with their answers. I don't know why. I guess they're just fed up. I don't know. And then exactly what this man said out of his own mouth. This, and this happened, and the guys ultimately put the needs of the agency and how better this would serve the agency above anything else. What I got from that was, you guys needed to break into the U.S. mainstream So you guys used us and used our guys to do it.
That's
That's basically what he said.
Yes, in any way, but literally saying it. Yes.
So they put the needs of what was to come and what was going to advance us forward above anything else, and not that they had the actual choice, because ultimately I don't think they did, because they don't have controlling interest in anything.
That's like the president the president of the United States coming up to a civilian saying, hey, so I really want this to happen. How are you going to be able to say no? You don't have, like, with all the cops and all the other people saying, hey, this president wants you to get this done.
It's a pressure.
Yeah.
You have the
pressure.
option to refuse.
Yeah.
Do you really have the option to refuse?
Exactly. So he basically said that with that line. He went on to say something else in support of Army, and I can't remember what it was, because that part just completely overshadowed. I loved what our president said in the article, as far as when it came down to allegations and rumors and speculations about things that Army's tactics, so forth and so on. I loved what he said and how he stood up for us, because I think in times past, he was very short about what his rebuttals would be when it came to something that wasn't comfortable. But he wasn't short with that. He wasn't short. He said this, he said that, he said this, and he said it's really not fair. And I really think it comes down to the point of us being easy targets because we're Asian,
yes,
because we're boy band that y'all deem us to be, and because we have a huge fandom. Yeah. So, I mean, for him to even be as verbal as he was in this article,
right,
that just moved me. And I'm like, oh my God, they're starting to talk. They're starting to speak up. They're starting to have a voice where they wanted to have a long time ago. For Jen to reveal what he revealed about that conversation that they had, he revealed more to us about the fact that he said the agency, everything else.
And Jen would be the one to say that.
Yeah, let's do what we're going to do. And he would be the one to spit it out, too, and share it with us. Let's do what we're going to do, depend on us, and depend on our family. So, I mean, they're being a lot more verbal. And because of that, I noticed it is easier for people to take from one article, go to the next article, make their own podcast, make their own blog.
Sensationalize
it, and add a little bit to it. Because we're dumb, Army. They're going to add this line. They're going to add this word. One word can change the whole connotation of a sentence that someone says.
It's the whole stand in line and whisper thing.
Yeah.
It's a telephone game. A telephone game. By the time it gets to the end, it was nothing related to what was...
Exactly.
Actually, listening to you talk opened my eyes about some things, and it makes me feel a little bit better that they I'm saying this for lack of a better words, because I know you're going to take it wrong, that they put the needs of the agency above their own tells me that they didn't want to do it, which means they realized if it's not broke, why the hell are we trying to fix it?
Yeah.
Like, if we were singing in Korean songs and we were making hits and we were being successful, why the hell? So
which is what P.D. Neem said in 2019, which is what our president said in 2019. But then they had to eat the words. Why? Why did they have to eat the words? Anybody tell me why they had to eat those words?
The song went number 1 on Billboard.
No, they had to eat the words before that. The song went number 1 after they conceded to go ahead and do the song. They had to eat those words because they conceded to go ahead and do not just Dynamite. When they did Dynamite, they knew Butter was coming. When they did Butter, they knew Permission to Dance was coming. So they had to eat those words that they had just stood by in 2019. They had to eat those words. Not only P.D. Neem, but our president. Why? Because Noosh was coming in and they said, look, this is where we need to go. This is how y'all are going to get there. So do it this way.
Say it like it is. New people were coming in. New people were coming into the fold from other agencies who did not have the big hit mindset. Yep. From other agencies came in from all different countries, America, Korea, wherever, it doesn't matter. Other agencies who did not have the philosophy that Big Hit originated with came in and said, this is where you should be going if you want to do this.
Y'all built this engine that's perfectly working, all the gears and chambers and everything is just lubed up and it's oiled and it's working and it's motorized and it's, now let us come in and show you what to do with it. Let us come in and show you how to get. We all want to break into that mainstream U.S. market, because once you break into that mainstream U.S. market, you are worldwide. We all want to do it. All Asians, and I'm not saying this is not about, I'm saying Asians because we've watched previous artists try and break into that market.
Yeah, we've watched several.
We've watched G-Dragon. We've watched CL.
Yep.
We've watched a lot of different artists try and break into that U.S. mainstream industry. Not just Asians, but we watched the Latino family try and break into the U.S. industry, U.S. mainstream, so forth and so on. So they come along and they see this beautifully, perfectly working engine, and they say, look, as a whole, this is where we all want to go, what we've all been trying to do for years. Let me show you what to do with this engine to get us all there.
So I watched this completely unrelated video last night, and it weirdly ended up being relevant to this conversation. So I guess I won't say her name because I don't want you guys to go too much into detail. But basically, this celebrity is a loose word because she mainly lives a normal life now. Mm-hmm. This woman who was a child actor in one of the shows I watched when I was little. Mm-hmm. So that's how I know her, and that's the only reason I clicked on her video to watch it, because I recognized her. And I'm like, oh my god, she's back on YouTube, right? She actually was very candid. She shared a lot of her stories about when she was on the show that I watched, and some mistakes she made along the way, and basically filling in the gaps between then and now. She's almost 40, and she lives basically just a normal life. She's not a celebrity anymore. She actually lives in Austin, weirdly enough. Wow. Weird coincidence, small world. She talked about how when she was a child star, it was a really big show. Like, she made millions of dollars before she was like 21. And she was talking about how she was 21 and nobody taught her how to use her money. So she... In few words, she basically just blew it all. You know, she didn't buy strippers or something like that. But in few words, she basically blew it all, and she regrets it. And she said that when she was kind of rebuilding her life after that, you know, she reflected on a lot of things, and she explained that because of that, when she was still in Hollywood, she no longer is anymore, she did a lot of things. Like, she did a lot of movies, she did a lot of performances, she straight up just did not want to do, because she wanted to chase the feeling she had when she had that much money, when she had lots of money. And I almost feel like that relates to what Hybe ended up doing these past few years, using the boys just to make a bunch of money, because I talked about years ago how they're growing too fast. Yeah. They need to slow down, or they're going to buy off too much more than they can chew, because they cannot rely on this level of income being steady. Yeah. Because this is an abnormality for a reason. Especially like in the business world, which is supposed to be slow moving, slow growth for a reason. If you burn too much, you're gonna burn out. I saw this years ago, and this is exactly what happened. Nobody could have predicted the pandemic specifically would happen, but at some point, something was bound to happen that wouldn't necessarily put them out of business, but at the very least slow things down. And at that point, they needed to be in a place where they could be stable, but instead, they ended up in a place where they had this humongous beast that they had to feed. You know, they had to feed it. And I truly don't think that whoever cared about the boys in that company wanted to make them do all these things, but it just came out of necessity, because at the end of the day, it ended up being, you know, their version of putting food on the table. Yeah. For the huge family that they acquired. I said before that they should not have grown so fast, because this is exactly what was going to happen. And this is what ended up happening. It was just so weird, because I was watching a completely irrelevant video, but it kind of put things into perspective for me. For her individually to say that, you know, she ended up building this lifestyle that she was not going to be able to sustain unless she made a certain level of money consistently. And that's what happens to a lot of actors. And this is exactly what happened to this company. They built so high up in the air and took on so many people and employees that once things slowed down, if they didn't keep that same level of ridiculous income that they did before, they're going to crash and burn.
And actually, there's still a possibility.
Yes, it is very much still a possibility.
Because there's still a possibility.
That is still a possibility, because if you lose Army BTS, you lose 97% of your
and that big old pretty building y'all got looking all glittery glossery.
Hey, but on the bright side, the good thing, no matter what happens with Hybe,
right?
We have a producer, We've got singers, we've got dancers, we've got rap, we've got everything we need. We got fan base.
Yeah.
These boys they gonna survive.
They're gonna survive.
We're gonna be together forever.
To go wherever
Yeah, I was
they
speaking
go.
specifically of the company.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's no question about the boys.
I mean, the bottom line is if y'all don't want to lose 97%
of your income,
get something right. Get right.
Get some act right.
I am not worried about
right.
the boys. If they were like 60-something years old and I needed to bootstrap them in the back of my garage, I would. Without like a second thought.
Yeah.
And I know every single one of these Army would.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no question about if the boys are ever gonna, be left out to graze. It's just, we're just upset because the company is just different from our family member who was once the company.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to go ahead and tie everything up with our final thoughts. Who wants to go first? Zoe?
Oh, that kind of was my final thought.
We
are 97%.
Okay, so get right.
I'm being, you're trying to stifle 97% of what you are. Keep on with it, and you're going to lose that 97%.
Yeah.
So if you get right,
yeah.
Or at least your 97% is going to dramatically be cut in half, because there are diehard new Army that are going to support and do whatever and follow. I almost said follow like sheep. Boy, but I don't know another that are going to do what they want to do as far as that type of Army that they are. And there's nothing wrong with being that kind of Army. It truly is not. Army is Army. Mm-hmm. So at least you may not lose all of your profit margin with losing us, or weakening us. But yeah, something's got to change.
I'm just saying you're gonna lose the same Army that have the experience and knew how to strategically get you there to begin with. Like, I feel like Army's intelligence from the beginning is what built them to what they are today.
100%. And I was just getting ready to add on to that. Yeah. Because it's more about buying a chimney. I keep saying chimney because I love chimney. But it's more about just buying a chimney. It's a whole lot more to that.
Yes.
And you have a lot of new Army that, don't care about it. Mm-hmm. Being intellectual when it comes to how to put the boys on top and keep. And like Bwana said, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And B, you have an Army that just, I don't know how to properly say that, so I'm not going to say it. But it's you base. We are the base. Mm-hmm. And anything without a base can crumble.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just telling you, you better watch it with your base. The base is very important. No matter how high you build up, with however many Army that comes in on this, without a base, it's not stable. It will fall.
And it makes me wonder, with K-Army being so silent, if they're weakening, or if they're like, as far as we know, or if they're like, we don't agree with this, we don't approve with this, we're going to fold our arms, sit on our hands, we're going to sit back and, watch you try and make it without us. Try and make it without that K-Army voice, who also taught Worldwide Army how to be that strong
Yeah,
Army.
they did.
So it makes me wonder that too. My final thought is, I love the fact that, like, a couple of weeks ago, I felt like we were in the dark, and I think we all did. But I honestly feel like I'm getting a little more of light shed on as to what the process was leading up to where we are now, and how the guys are kind of feeling right now, and how they've been feeling the past couple of years. And then you got a pandemic that hit them and took them away from their life source, basically. And then and a better understanding that I'm not crazy. This is where we are going, because the guys have been feeling that I don't like where this is going, but I'm gonna make this change. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. That's what we're actually seeing on their physical face and body. Yeah, that's what we're seeing in the difference in their performances. We see some great performances, then we see some lackluster performances. And if you new Army or hardcore Army in that way, you're not going to understand what I mean by that. Those of us Armies that have been watching them for a long time and know those different personalities know when a performance does have some lackluster in it. So that's my final thoughts on it.
My final thoughts is, I'm going to kind of echo what Bwana said. It does at least feel somewhat cathartic to have confirmed some of what we've been feeling, because it's hard to, when you're just feel like you're talking to a wall, it's hard to eventually ask yourself, am I just crazy? Like, is this all in my head? That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I think it's nice to at least have some of that be
substantiated.
Resolved a little bit, in that, okay, well, no, I don't think I am crazy. I think that this kind of confirms what we've been feeling. And honestly, in a weird way, it does make me feel a little closer to the boys now, because I feel like my speculation was validated. It validates that means that I do at least somewhat know the boys as well as I was hoping I did, because I was right. I was able to tell these things without being told these things, right?
Exactly.
I think that helps a little bit, and I think that it also helps knowing that, again, I have a reason to trust the boys. I know that they are aware of what's happening, and I think that makes me feel at least a little bit better that they're aware.
Well, my final thoughts in regards to what's happening is I don't like it.
I agree.
Don't like it. And this is not the first time I've said that, and I'm hoping I will be saying this less and less and less till I'm not saying it anymore. Because this is a position I've never really been in with them, and this whole entire situation that's going on, I don't like it. And I hope to be out of this entire situation soon and back to where we used to be and doing what we love and just connecting and loving on our boys. But yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, and they don't like it either. And to know that they don't like it, I mean, to be confirmed that there are things that they just don't like and they have been putting up with, that helps. That it is cathartic to know that we're on the same page with them. So I want to say that if you are one of our listeners, and it seems like all of some of our podcasts are going towards a dark day or something.
That's because we're in dark days.
Because there are some dark days here. But our podcasts are not always going to be this way. We have a lot of podcasts.
We have a lot of funny stories we can tell.
And then our very next podcast coming up is going to be one that you're going to want to tune into, because I think it's going to be, it is definitely more lighthearted, so forth and so on.
And informative.
And funny, informative. So we are not. And if you are just listening to us for the first time, we will continue to go down this road, as far as we are going to always call out something that we see as happening. That is given the potential of weakening us as a family in any way. So be ready. That's this podcast. So if that's not what you're looking for, the truth and the grimy talk that some people that they want to avoid, then it may not click past and go to our sunshiny ones. We'll put a little sunshine on that podcast or something, so you'll know the difference. But this is us. And now you know Army.
You know us. You better.